All right. Hi, Charlotte. How are you?
Hey, I'm good, thanks. How are you?
Good. Thanks for coming on the show. We've already had like a chit chat as I do with all my guests, but hit record and the show is ready to go. So, Charlotte, tell me, you are not Australian. Do you want to let everyone know who you are, where you're from, and what you do?
Absolutely. So, not too far, just across the ditch in New Zealand. So, I am a holistic health coach and I help rural women to create empowered and sustainable lifestyles so that they can lead happier and healthier lives. And I do that through a very holistic one-to-one coaching approach. I am also a mum to three young kids, and I'm happily married. And together with my family, we live on our farm, which is an organic dairy farm. So that's a wee bit about me.
I love that. I love that. So we are in a membership together. I love it. And we are both foodies. We love food and we definitely inspire each other with our ways of cooking and all that jazz, especially like you are such a gun. I love what you do for your family. You are a queen of baking as well. I love it. And I love what you do for your community and what you're all about, and really just bringing that passion to people around you, especially in rural areas. But I think it's something that we can apply like for everyone, all us women, right? And you are the queen of like self-care, which I think when people say self-care, they just automatically think about facials. Well, I do anyway. But do you want to tell people a little bit about like what your whole idea about self-care is and how, food plays a part in that, and how you really like help women navigate that in their lives?
Absolutely. So for me, like self-care, definitely it's the massages and the facials and all the nice stuff, but it's actually at a fundamental level, it's actually just the really essential things that we do to take care of ourselves. And what it is it's about making your essential needs a priority. And a quote that I really, really love that kind of landed me in the space of realizing that I needed to take care of myself was this. If you're going to come anywhere but last, you have to put yourself first. And I don't know about you, but when I first heard that, it just slapped me in the face. I was just like, wow, it was timing. I needed to hear it.
Yeah.
And so, and that came at a time for me where I was at a place in my own journey of life where I was, I was trying to do all the things. I was a people pleaser. I was trying to keep too many balls in the air. And I wasn't even on my own priority list. And the result was that I actually blew out, and I had like a year of undiagnosed mystery illness and pain and diminishing quality of life before I was diagnosed with an autoimmune disease. So at that point, I knew that there was only one way that I was going to change the outcome of my life and improve the quality of my life, and that was by just making myself a priority on my list. Like I had to start taking care of myself. And so that's when I sort of started to really embrace self-care and learning around that. So in terms of the nutrition and food side of self-care, so that's something that in my nursing career, I knew that nutrition was important, but it wasn't until after I'd started to have a family that I learned a lot more about nutrition and how food can actually be our medicine. Medicine can be their food. And I really learned about the value of whole foods and, the energy and the joy that we put into the food and the choices that we make to nourish our bodies. And for myself, when I started to realize that actually, if I was really mindful in the choices that I made with my nutrition, I could heal my body. That was a massive game changer. And it started for me with just, like listening to my body and recognizing what worked for me and what didn't. And just adding in more of the good stuff, not getting caught up taking stuff out. Like people are like, oh, you shouldn't have this, shouldn't have that. It was more like actually let all those stories go and just add more good stuff in, and the rest is just sort of taken care of.
It's funny how like we get to that point, of really like not being able to function for us to kind of have that wake up call. I was going to ask you like when you know, a lot of these women come to you, the ones that you particularly go like coach and whatnot, like whether it's in your course that you do over 8 weeks or whether it's your one-to-one, like what are some common, you know, feelings that they have? What are some words that they like describe themselves feeling that you're just like, oh my God, it's something that's so common amongst, it's like a pattern. But what do they say when they come to you? Like, Charlotte, I'm feeling like what? What is it?
They're feeling overwhelmed. They're like exhausted. They have no energy. They're trying to keep all the balls in the air, but they keep dropping them. They just kind of like, is this my life? You know, there must be more. Yeah, they're starting to resent the ones they love. They you know, they don't even know what it means to take care of themselves. They kind of know vaguely that it's something they probably should do, but they just don't even know where to start. And I guess
it's really hard, isn't it? It is. And you just start noticing things, right? Like even bodily, like I was just angry, I was moody, I was frustrated, and this is like all the time, right? And you just start realizing, you're just like, I didn't even eat fucking lunch. Like my lunch was like sometimes salt and vinegar chips, which I mean I fucking love, but it's not good. It's not good because I was more worried, and my brain and my head was like, okay, I've got to get dinner sorted. I've got to, you know, sort the kids out lunch. I can't be bothered for me. Like, who cares? Like, okay, like I always have like dinners leftovers for that isn't enough for another night for dinner. But it's like my husband, okay, his lunch is sorted, kids are sorted. And it's like, what about me? Like, what about me? I never like put myself first. And even looking back, like, you know, when you breastfeed and shit, just like, oh my God, like, how did you not? Because you just don't, you're just thinking about other people and you're just so selfless. Like us as mums just naturally put everyone. And I used to hear women say like, oh, you got to look after yourself. You got to like this. And I'd be like, oh my God, for the love of Christ, I'm not a priority. But then you get to that point and you're just like, I need to really look after myself because like you said, without us, everything crumbles, right?
Absolutely. I always say that, you know, when you're like mom and you're the wife and you're like the center of the world for your family. If your wheels fall off, everyone else is stuffed. You know, like the ripple effect is not flash. But the flip side is when you start making yourself a priority and taking better care of yourself, everyone else feels better. Everyone else benefits. Everyone notices. They're like, oh, you're a bit happier, or oh, haven't you're a bit more positive this week? You know, like people notice, and that's that ripple effect. It works both ways, and I guess that can sometimes be the motivation to know that actually you are worth making your own priority list. Exactly. And that, you know, when we do take care of ourselves, we're just so much better for everyone and everything else in our lives, and of course ourselves. But yeah,
it's so like important. It's a reflection, isn't it? I found that when I started looking after myself and I'd feel better, the less cranky I was, the less all of those kind of quote unquote symptoms, like everyone else didn't like pick up on that energy, which then goes into energy. And we talk about that, especially with food. And I always say, I'm like, have you ever walked into a restaurant and sometimes you walked out, you haven't had food poisoning, you haven't had anything that's like heavy or stodgy, but you walk out and you just feel like shit. You feel like, you feel bloated, you just, I don't know, like passing, like all this stuff. And you're just like, what was in that food? What was it? Even sometimes you go to people's houses and I'm like, it's the energy, because there's either a chef that's going off his chop at the sous chef, there's a stressful environment, there's someone who's just like whipped up whatever. So some listeners are probably like, oh, fuck, I don't have time. Like, I just need to get dinner sorted. But what are some ways that you are really conscious about, like the energy that you put into the food? Like, what are things that you do that you're like, okay, I just want to be present when I cook and I want it to be nourishing. I want to be mindful. Like, what are some ways that and strategies or things that you do that make you, put that good energy into the food?
Absolutely. Oh my gosh, good energy in the food. We all know. And I mean, like, it's in the restaurants, but it's at home too, right? We know those times when we're under pressure and we slap something together and everyone goes, it was all right. You know, you just know. Everyone's like, that was average. And they might not even say that, but you just know, yourself. It's average. Whereas when you are so lovingly putting together something so good, it tastes amazing. So for me, I think it starts with planning. And I know you're a massive fan of planning as well. So in our family where we live, I try and do a big grocery shop every month. So you can imagine that is a significant size shop. And what it looks like is going through all the favorite cookbooks. Everyone has a bit of a say, like, Mum, can we have, like, it's usually like we need pizza, risotto, and those are like the key things everyone wants all the time, and that's fine because we can mix that up. So it's always about having that plan and knowing that you've roughly, aside from the vegetables which you get fresh, roughly knowing that you've always got what you need, because that kind of gives you that one little, yep, I've got things together, like this, I've got this kind of moment. So you've got the plan, you've got the stuff you need. So that's kind of like that first sigh of relief. Okay, we've kind of got this going on. And then it's breaking it down each week and being like, oh, well, Monday is going to be a late night. We just need something super easy. Or Tuesday, I'm going to be, I've got an hour free in the middle of the day, so I can put that, that dinner on early. Or, just looking at how your week rolls and having a plan. Because if you've got a plan and you manage it with your time, that's like a whole lot less stress that's flowing through into the food that you're preparing.
Oh my God,
and then
I love that.
It's just like, I don't know, I'm just a real foodie. I love creating with flavors and I love being inspired by others. So I actually just love my kitchen and just being in my kitchen. So I put some music on and I like to try and, do things gradually. So I might chop and prepare a few vegetables and then, I don't know, go out and do something with the kids and then come back. And then it just kind of evolves. And I think when I don't have pressure, and I just let myself flow with it, it just kind of works. And I just really enjoy it.
I love what you said about that, because I just did a podcast episode about the pantry. Pantry and freezer are our best friends. And you kind of know what, the family, the kids, what comes easy to you. So a lot of people I know are foodies, they love it, but it's just the whole thinking. The thinking is the most stressful part. But I think if you stick to recipes that that are crowd pleasers, that are easy, things that you can keep in your pantry, stock up your spices, then the fruit and veg can be done. Like there's so many like online orders that you can just get fresh deliveries for that. But I love that. And I think, I don't know about you, but I feel like sometimes when I tell people who don't plan, they're just like, oh, I don't want to hear about planning. But it honestly is a lifesaver, because it takes that load of stress. And when you know what you're going to roughly be making for the next week, when you menu plan, like you said, the days that, for example, you're taxi mum and you've got swimming or whatever on, and that you can't be standing at the stove stirring risotto. So it's going to be, hey, let's do something that's a slow cooker dish that I can pop on in the morning. It's going to be done, double batch it, freeze a second load. It's just that forward thinking. So I love that. And I think the whole music, oh my God, sometimes I put music, my kids are going like batshit crazy. So I feel like one of those ladies that's like having everything's burning in the background. But I'm just like cooking in the kitchen. But I really do love that. And I think that ties into another thing that you love to talk about, like cravings as well. Oh my goodness. What are some reasons that you feel like that makes us crave like shit food particularly? And how do you kind of get rid of that?
Yeah, so there's a few different ways you can look at that. So one of the things I learned more recently is that looking at the time of the day that you have your cravings. And so, for instance, if you're craving something usually sweet around 3 p.m, or sometimes it's kind of after the kids go to bed at night around 8 p.m, you're craving something sweet. Sometimes it can actually mean that you didn't get enough good fats in the meal before that. So if it's a 3 p.m. thing, it's about going back and thinking, oh, what did I have at lunchtime, and looking at ways you can add some more good fats, because good fats are what sustain us, keep us satisfied longer. And the same with your evening meal. What I would say though is that sometimes our cravings are an indicator of some kind of nutrient deficiency. And that's, you can navigate that in different ways, but usually I use a theory called crowding out. And so that's kind of a little bit what I touched on before. And it's, if you just add more in as opposed to taking out. So if you add more of a diversity of nutrient dense whole foods, so whether that's like fresh fruit and vegetables, nuts, seeds, all of the things, if you're just adding more good whole foods in, your body responds in a way that's really positive because it's getting what it needs, and just naturally it crowds out those cravings and the need for other things that are, I guess less nutritious. Because I don't believe in good food and bad food. It's like it's either nutritious or it's less nutritious. It's only, we give energy to the way we think about food as well.
Absolutely.
But yeah, I always just say, you know what, don't get caught up in the fact that you ate 10 Tim Tams. Just eat more spinach, or just look at ways that you can add some more diversity to your other meals.
And that whole, generally, that's, don't eat a whole avocado, like, oh no, it's too much. I mean, look, I think there is some sort of balance as well, but it, we can't just blame the avocado when we just chowed down a packet of tubes, says Marilyn, right? So I think guilty is, we all are guilty, we all have our little pleasures, but I love that about food as well. And when I look at, like, especially, Mediterranean diet and stuff, and they say, like, it's pretty, like, a good diverse diet, and they eat pasta and they eat, it's really, like, good fats and stuff. But I think it's also being mindful of what we're eating when, and portions, and if we're having the frequent, because I was guilty, I don't know about you, well, maybe once upon a time, or maybe the people that you coach, but I would just not really have a good lunch, because I have really good breakfasts, and so then that kind of pushes me over to lunch, like, and I don't get hungry. But then it's sort of like that window where it's like it's too sort of late for lunch, and because we've got little kids, I have an earlier dinner, so I would definitely get cravings around that 2-3 p.m. mark. Couldn't be bothered to make myself lunch, and then I would just be like snacking on shit, and then I would be either not hungry enough to have a good sized portion dinner, so I just sort of peck at it, and then when the kids went down, I'm like, oh, what's next? So it's really, and then when I started to meal plan, I would incorporate my lunch into it, and just making sure that I would have tuna, either grill some chicken. What else are some things that you have for lunch? Because I feel like for me, it's always like, I run out of ideas for lunch. What are your kind of go-to lunches that you love?
If I make a big pot of soup, I just had leftover pumpkin soup for my lunch today. That was really yummy. Like, just so easy, heat up the portion that you need, that sort of thing. But we probably have a lot of eggs as well. So so for me, like, I would have eggs on toast, or I always, if I'm making salad at night for dinner, I always make sure that I make enough that there's some left over for my lunch the next day, because I love salad. And like you say, when you've got some grilled meat or some tuna or something, you can just kind of throw it together, a little bit of avo. Oh, what else have we got? Some dukkha, like you can just kind of create something really yummy. I love creating yummy lunches.
I know.
And the best thing for me about yummy lunches is that on weekdays, I get to enjoy my lunch, just me, maybe my husband, like there's no children around, and it's kind of like quite a nice, like we love our children, right? But it's quite a nice experience when we get to enjoy a meal without, all the negotiations around one more spoonful, or can you please chew with your mouth closed? Like there's none of that. It's quite nice when we get to just have that time.
Especially when you're working. And when you're working as well, like you don't want lunch, because I felt like sometimes I was like, for God's sake, I'm spending like another couple of hours in the kitchen at lunchtime just to make a fucking lunch. So I love that point about the whole salad, or just having like some slaw mix, and then making like a dressing. Oh my God, what's your go-to dressing? I'm so interested in people's dressing.
What is two? I've got two.
Scarlet. All right, go. Okay. All right. I'll let you have two. I know that.
One of them actually just standard homemade aioli. Like you've just got to be able to nail the aioli, and it goes with everything. Like you just can't. There's no argument. It actually goes with everything. And I just make it with a stick, where it's real simple, just so easy. It's unbelievable. So that's one of them. And the second one is I really like making one with like lemon, Dijon mustard, nice olive oil, maybe a little bit of maple syrup, a squeeze of lemon,
I love
all of these good things together. Just
honey mustard
yummy.
Is delicious. Tahini, if you guys have any vegan listeners or dairy intolerant listeners, so tahini, lemon, garlic, olive oil, bit of salt and pepper, delicious. Orange vinaigrette. So I love fresh fennel, radish, rocket. So you've got the kind of bitterness from that's then balanced with the fresh orange juice, a bit of seeded mustard. You can add a bit of like white wine vinegar, red wine vinegar, olive oil. So all these dressings that we're kind of talking about, and especially here, like as well, you guys like going into spring and summer, It's really good. Like I make a batch and I keep it in the fridge on standby. I fucking hate those jar pre-made dressings. Oh my
No,
goodness. They're full of
no.
nasties. I can understand some people are time poor, but at the like worst case, just balsamic vinegar and olive oil. Like
Yeah,
that.
it's not that hard.
Yeah. And dried herbs, oregano, Italian herbs. Yeah. So having a dressing on standby in the fridge, I think also makes your life a lot easier. So if you do prep, maybe like salad for a few days. I don't do the whole week in advance. It goes manky. I don't do that.
Oh, I do prep definitely with slaw, but not like a week in advance. It wouldn't last. But I always think, when you've got your mandolin out and you've got a couple of cabbages, well, you may as well just flick them through and chuck them in a big Tupperware, bowl, seal the lid, and you just pull them out and you put it with this and a bit of that this time, and mix it up, and it's half the work done, isn't it?
Yeah, I love it. Especially if you have like leftover roast veg as well. Like I always think if you are making a chook with roast veggies, make some more veggies. Keep it on standby, because adding those like root vegetables like sweet potato or pumpkin into a salad is definitely going to help as well, and tastes like so much better, right?
Yeah, so good.
I love
so
that.
Yum.
So you're launching a course at the moment. Well, you're in launch phase.
I am.
I think you might be. So this will be out 2 weeks from when we're recording right now. So you might be, when are you actually starting the course? Like when does it start?
Starting on Monday, the 27th of September. So I will be a couple of weeks in probably by the time you launch this, but that's all good. So it's pretty exciting.
Won't be the last time you launch.
Absolutely. And there's a whole week in my program where we talk about, like nourishing our bodies with nutrients. So oh my goodness, I love sharing that kind of wisdom and those ideas, and, empowering women to just do little things to start taking better care of themselves. It's it's really exciting.
And I think also guilt's another thing. I know that I kind of at first felt guilty. Like that was my first initial, I mean, looking back, it's ridiculous, but it was valid at the time. I felt guilty for not being there at bedtime after I'd been there, with the kids throughout the whole day, to go to the gym and put myself and my health and mental health first, well, not even first, it was last. But at the time it worked. I'd be like, I feel guilty for going, or I feel guilty for, I don't know, just having that moment. And I think if you are feeling that, it's always really, really nice to surround yourself with other women feeling similar things to kind of encourage and help you break through that shit, because it takes away the guilt a lot more. And when you have someone like yourself or other women who are feeling the same, who can help guide you, for me, for personal experience, I mean, I didn't do your course because it didn't exist back then, but had I have that, I think I would have done it a lot sooner, and I would have felt so much better. So anyone out there that is feeling guilt, I really recommend seeking someone to kind of help break through that, and surrounding yourself with people that don't make you feel like shit about, putting yourself first, or making you feel like any less than for like doing what you do or want to do. So fucking haters. I always ask my guests, what is your CBF go-to amazing meal? I always ask for a recipe because I love new recipes. I am going to make this and I will share it on my socials. But do you want to let everyone know what is this amazing recipe that you have kindly gifted to these listeners?
So this was hard for me because I was like, I did get into some overthinking, because I was like, it's actually not really, really easy. It's just easy for me. But once you let go of the fact that it's, it is pretty straightforward. It's called spiced Mexican tomato soup, and Mum found it somewhere and shared it in our family a long time ago, and I just make it all the time. It's like as easy as a cup and a half of dried red lentils, 6 cups of beef stock, a nice little Mexican spice mix, 2 cans of chopped tomatoes. Like it's really, really simple, and it's so delicious, and it's so warming. And you can put a dollop of I use coconut yogurt because I'm dairy intolerant, but sour cream for the rest of the family, a little bit of coriander because I'm a big coriander fan. It's just such a yummy, nutrient dense meal. Oh, it's got lots of garlic. It's got lots of garlic. So that's when we know it's a good recipe, right? Lots of garlic. Yeah, so it's really yummy.
I love that. Thank you for sharing. I'll post the recipe on socials. I'll tag you. So if anyone needs it, it'll be in my free Facebook community group, The Woo in Food, as well. And that's it, Charlotte. Thank you for coming on the show. I really, really appreciate your time. But do you want to let everyone know where they can find you, how they can contact you? Do you want to let them know?
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks, Marilyn. So you can find me on Instagram, charlotte.heald, and my surname is Heald, but Marilyn will probably tag me in here, so you better find that super easy. Yeah, that's probably the easiest way to find me for now.
Yeah, no worries. And what's the name of your course? Do you want to let people know for the future?
Putting yourself first.
Oh, I love it. That's amazing.
Very actually named. Yeah, yeah.
All right, Charlotte, thank you so much. I really appreciate your time, and I will link all of this in the show notes. So if anyone needs it, but Charlotte and I are big on DMs as well. So if you want to come over to Instagram and ask anything further, we are so open to it.
Awesome. Absolutely.
Right. Ciao,
cool.
ciao.
Thanks, Marilyn. Okay.
Bye.